So, Florian, you'll be talking at PHP UK in February 2026, and your topic is what are the four pillars of observability? So, what are they?
So let's say the three pillars of observability are metrics, logging, and tracing, and then there is a fourth pillar emerging that is profiling. I would say there are other people that would say probably RUM or other thing, but I would say profiling, continuous profiling, is the fourth pillar emerging.
Excellent. And what kind of takeaways are people going to get when they watch your talk?
Well, first of all, you're gonna learn what all of these individual pillars are and what you can learn from like just using one of them, what you can see, what it helps you, what it shows you, and also what all of this can do if you combine all of that together and start combining all of the data that you get from observing your application, all of these four pillars.
Excellent. So if we just say delved briefly into metrics, what kind of things might we or if we're looking just at metrics, what kind of metrics could we collect about our software, and how will that help us?
Well, you don't even need to go into software to see that your application is not performing as it should. One example that I'll not give away the conclusion, but one example I'm going to show is that just with metrics from your hardware, you're going to see interesting things like, for example, your database CPU skyrocketing while your PHP FPM workers are not doing anything anymore, which is super interesting pattern.
Yeah, and that is interesting. The whole looking at things like that. I remember once we had a server where the database and the application were on the same server, and then we moved it off to a managed database, and everything just ground to a halt. And it was only when we realised that there's so many requests being made that didn't matter when it was on the same server, but even if it was just like a network connection at a data center, it just slowed everything down. Is this the kind of thing? Is these the kind of mistakes that obviously nobody will make mistakes as bad as we did? But are these the kind of things that this kind of observability can help out with?
Like metrics, yes, definitely. Like all of these pillars have their, let's say, specialities or give a certain detail into a certain objective that something you're looking into, and some of these pillars give you insights into certain, let's say, dimensions of your application.
And when you get these insights, are there some good ones to start off with? If you're not really doing any kind of observing of your system apart from just praying that it stays up, are there some nice easy ones to get started with?
Definitely. So, I would say in a lot of cases, not in all cases, but a lot of cases, I think doing something badly is better than not doing it at all. And for observability, that counts as well. So I've seen so many applications, specifically PHP applications, that just get deployed and then they run, hopefully, but actually you don't know. And most of people start with some, let's say, ping service that basically pings the application or does an HTTP request to certain endpoints, let's say every minute, and then you create a nice graph out of it. And that is better than nothing, definitely. It doesn't really tell you a lot about the application, but it gives you at least to a certain degree if your application is still reachable. But depending on the traffic that you have in your system, sending a request every once a minute is not enough to cover most of the stuff that is going on there. I would definitely start the easiest way with metrics because it tells you a lot already. Just the hardware metrics about how many network traffic you have to machines, what the CPU load is, the memory consumption, all of this already tells you a lot about if your application is healthy.
Okay. And presumably there are, maybe this is less important for an internal application that has a handful of users. But I suppose even then there might be something like you could be slowly running out of disk space, and then one day people come in and, find a problem.
Yeah, that's even for an internal application, you have multiple things. The one is that you want to be prepared, or you want to see that there is stuff going on. Like now with Black Friday upcoming, you're definitely going to see that there is more traffic on your machines, and you want to be able to observe that in real time. But the other aspect is also looking back into the past is basically you had an outage and you want to start exploring what happened, and you want to write a postmortem about this, and then having observability data. The more you have, the better you can actually find out what happened and what led to the accident or to the incident.
I see. And then with all that additional information, you're more likely to not have the same incident happen again.
Hopefully
so. And that's really interesting. So people will learn about these 4 pillars, and regardless of what size application they're working on, there'll be some useful takeaways that will hopefully, I suppose, prevent issues from happening. I suppose if we are logging certain things, we can see a problem before it occurs. And also if a problem does happen, then we'll be able to look at what happened and hopefully prevent it from happening again.
Exactly. And one of the things, I also get another example. I also don't want to give it away, but sometimes it's not your software or your application that changes. It can also be the data that you process that changes, that leads to your happy path not being the happy path anymore.
I see. So you had something that was all working fine, but then, I don't know, you've got, maybe some error queue or some error process.
Yeah, you left it running for half a year, and just over time, data changes, hosting changes. People just Dockerize the application, and now it's in a Kubernetes and not running on a bare metal machine anymore. And all of a sudden, it starts to behave differently. But you didn't change your code. The code is still the same, but the surrounding environment changed.
I see. So someone in DevOps has come along and messed up with your perfectly operating system.
Not necessarily messed up on purpose, but
well, accidentally changed something. Oh yeah, well, it doesn't matter if I change this. Yeah, and then it does. Yeah. Okay, so your talk is at PHP UK on Friday, the 20th of February, 2026. It's still possible to buy tickets for that. And you also work on some open source software. You can tell us about
that? I started maintaining the Parallel extension, I think 1.5 years ago or so. Yeah.
And what's the Parallels extension for?
So the extension, it's xparallel. That is an extension that allows you to do multi-threading in PHP. That's totally not coupled to the observability talk.
Yep.
But the idea is that if you come from Go parallelity or Go multi-threading, then it's pretty familiar to how that is, because basically you don't spawn a thread and do something on it, but you schedule a workload to be executed on a runtime. And then the parallel extension basically in the end keeps a thread pool for you, or creates a thread if there is no one available. And then you can utilize multi-threading PHP on CPU heavy workload. Yeah.
I see. And what kind of applications would benefit from this kind of multiple threading?
So basically everything that is CPU bound, that's the first thing. The other thing is you can also use threads to do background processing. It's not necessarily for web-based requests or for web requests, but for web requests, if you do, let's say, you probably shouldn't do CPU bound stuff in a web request, at least not as much. If you do, let's say, you do send IO requests, like an HTTP request to a downstream service, and it's not timely critical that you get the answer to that like right now in this line of code, but like sooner or later before you respond to the request. You could, in theory, spawn a background thread using Parallel and let that handle the request and just do whatever you want, and in the end check back in. But probably you can also do the same with asynchronous PHP, like with curl or Guzzle.
Okay.
But in theory, you could use that.
You could use it for that. So this is less so, I don't know, suppose my web application, needs to send an email, and sending an email is a web request. That would be best done in Parallels, or would it be best done like on a traditional kind of put it on a queue and a queue processor deals with it?
In the case you get a web request, you want to send an email, I would probably just push a message to a queue and then have a queue processor do that. Yeah.
So in this case, though, in the case where multi-threading would potentially be useful, you have something where you get a web request in and you've got a computationally expensive thing, which can be split up easily. And you need that response before you respond to, say, the web request. Would that be a case for that?
Like resizing an image, for example, if you have huge images or you do a lot of image processing, you could offload that to a background thread while in the front end processing other stuff, and then just wait until that thread is ready. But so it could be processed in parallel.
I see. So if you've got a lot of things that do neatly go into parallel processes, you could use XParallels to do that.
Yep.
And how popular is the package? Is it a new package, or has it been around for some time?
It's been around for some time. Joe Watkins created that initially. Yeah. Like he initially created pthreads, which was just a pthreads, let's say, wrapper around a PHP wrapper around the pthreads C library, and then he launched Parallel because pthreads has some downsides if you want to do that in PHP. And the let's say philosophy of Parallels better matches what we do in PHP.
Okay.
So we started with that, and I then opened a pull request to make it work with PHP 8.4, and then I got access rights and started maintaining it.
And now you have the joy of keeping it going.
Yes.
Yeah. And if people want to find out more about it, I assume there's a GitHub repo. You can find it.
There's a GitHub repo just on GitHub XParallel.
And how do you install it? Is it something you would use Pi for, or
yes, PECL or Pi?
PECL or Pi to install it. That's amazing. Yeah, you'll talk on the 20th. Yeah, looking forward to it.